So we're doing factoring quadratics, and this is like one of the key things for Algebra 1. You'll be doing a ton of this in geometry and Algebra 2. And the nice thing is, it's not terribly difficult. We got a nice step-by-step process to do it. The only difficulty with this for some people is just remembering the steps and remembering where things go. The math itself isn't that big a deal. You guys are going to pick up the math really quickly. It's more going to be like there's like 8 different pieces you got to get in the right places to make this work. Okay? So I'm going to walk you through it today, and we'll walk through a couple examples, and you guys are going to pick this up really quickly, and you'll be great at it today. My guess is when we come back next Tuesday, you might have some trouble remembering like which goes where, but that's cool because you're going to have your notes, right? Before we get into what we're doing today, I need to warn you that we're going to do this for 2 days, as you can see on your notes. Could you guys look at day 1 and day 2 and see if you can spot the difference between the types of problems you see in day 1 and the types of problems you see in day 2? What's the big difference between this? So you're seeing bigger numbers, definitely bigger numbers in day 2. That's why I was kind of warning you during our warm-up. Sometimes when we do these diamond problems, we're going to deal with some bigger numbers, but that's okay. We know how to make factor pairs. So the big one that I spot, having done lots and lots of these problems, the big difference for me is that on day 2, every one of the problems has a coefficient in front of the x squared, or the p squared. There's a number in front here, and that makes these problems more difficult. So we're not going to tackle this yet. We're going to tackle the simpler version where it's always a 1 in front, where there's no number in front. But I need you to know that on day 2, you're going to have to deal with this. And those of you who I've shown this to already, that's the part I haven't shown you yet. Okay, so this is why I got to show you the long way today, because you're going to have to do it the long way when you get to the new stuff on Tuesday. All right, so again, there is a shortcut to what we're going to do today. Some of you have seen that shortcut already, and I'll show you what it is later on, but I want us to follow the full process because that's going to help us when we get to the more complicated stuff on Tuesday. If you guys will stick with me today, the stuff we're doing on Tuesday will not be any more complicated than what we're doing today, but let's get our good practice in. Okay, so here we go. Are you ready? This is a process, okay? Big old process. All right, we're going to factor these quadratics. They're quadratics because they have an x squared or a t squared or a p squared in them. And when we factor these things, we're actually going to be able to factor it into 2 binomials. We've done problems like this in reverse already, where I gave you something that looked like this and you built a box and you put this stuff on the outside and then the inside gave you an answer that looked like this, right? We're just doing that in reverse. All right, so here's the process. Step 1 is we need to identify an A and a B and a C. Guys, are you paying attention? Again, I don't want you to miss this. This is different from what we did yesterday, okay? We need to identify an A and a B and a C. And they are just the numbers that are on each of our terms here. Now, they're just numbers. There's no X's in A and B and C. A would be the number that's in front of the x squared. It's invisible, but what is it? So 1. Can you guys write down A equals 1, please? B is the number that's attached to the x, which is 9 in this case. C is the constant term, the thing that does not have a variable, which is 8. So we identify A and B and C. So far, so good? All right, next step, we are going to create a diamond problem using those 3 numbers. So we're going to create a diamond problem. You got this, don't worry. When we create the diamond problem, we're going to put a number in the top and the bottom. Again, this is different from what I showed you yesterday, so pay attention. We're going to do A times C in the top, and we're going to do B in the bottom. So tell me, what number am I going to have in the top if I do 8 times C? I have an 8 up there. 1 times 8 is 8. And then B goes in the bottom. B is 9. So we've got an 8 up top and a 9 in the bottom. All right? So, again, this is going to be the tricky part, is remembering, like, oh, I got to do the top and the bottom, and it's A times C in the top and B in the bottom. But once you've done a few of these, you'll get it down. All right, next step, we need to do the problem. We need to do the diamond problem. So we need to find our side numbers here. All right, so see if you can find me two numbers that multiply to give us 8 and add up to 9. What are we coming up with? 8 and 1? Yep, all right, let's put it in there. 8 and 1. And do we need to mess around with any negatives on the 8 and the 1? No, we are good. All right, folks, we are halfway there. If you're feeling okay so far, then you got this. All right, we start with the X, and then from there we create a box. We create a box. Now this is the trickiest part for me because I sometimes have trouble remembering like spatially where things go. So this took me a while to get memorized, but we're going to fill in the inside of the box. Okay, all the information is right here. We just got to know where to look and where to put it. All right, so this and this, can you guys circle that for me, that x squared and that 8? Those two things are going to go, and I'm going to draw a little dashed line here. The x squared is going to go in this corner. Don't draw anything on the sides or the top. We're going to have to put some stuff in there, but we'll put this x squared in that corner. And then the 8 is going to come around here, and it's going to go in this bottom corner here. So that just comes from your original problem. Good? All right. And then these two things are side numbers that we just did in our x problem. Those are going to be in my other two spots. It doesn't really matter which one goes where, but this is important. When we put this in, they get an x after it. It comes from the x, it gets an x. So this is going to be 8x and 1x. Okay, comes from the x, it gets an x. All right, that's the hardest part of the whole thing. From here on, if we can get that set up, then the rest of this becomes really, really easy. Any questions up to there? It's a lot of steps and a lot of moving pieces, but then from here it becomes easy. We just need to fill out the top of this box and the side of this box. And it's going to be pretty easy for us because of this x squared. There's only one way I can think of to get an x squared. What is it? X times x. It's got to be, right? X times x. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and fill out this top one. So what's going to multiply by this x out in front to get us this 1x? How about a 1? And then this space right here, this needs to multiply by this x to get us 8x. What gets us 8x? X times 8. And then that's our answer. X plus 1, x plus 8, and we're done. It is, but it won't be complicated once you've done it a few times. So, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. And then once we get through with the stuff that we're doing on Tuesday, then I'll say go back to the shortcut that I showed you already. Okay, but for today, I want you doing the full step. Because remember what I told you, this becomes more complicated, not just because the numbers are bigger, but the shortcut will not work for this. You'll get wrong answers every single time. So you're going to have to do this. What's that? For lesson 3? Some of them and some of them no. Yeah. So we'll talk more about the shortcut later on for those that I've shown the shortcut. For today, I want you to do the long process. And it looks long. Oh, don't roll your eyes and groan. It looks long, but like once you've done this a couple times, you'll be able to do this whole thing in like 30, 40 seconds. Yeah, totally. I can do them in my head at this point. Yes, I've been doing this for more than 30 years. But like you're going to get quick at this. All right, let's do another one together. Let's do one more together. I see some of you have already started. and I actually stole this off of a student this morning. I really, really like this strategy. So I saw this student in my 5th period class. I won't say their name. But what they did was they set the whole thing up ahead of time. They set up their X, they put their parentheses in where their answer was going to go, and then they set up their box. I thought this was a really cool strategy because it kind of, like, you take care of the stuff that you're going to do every single time, and then, like, we don't have to worry about drawing the box when we get to it. We can just focus on what goes into it. And then the other thing I saw him do that I thought was really neat was he went ahead and filled in these 2 spots in his box, because straight from the beginning of the problem, we know what's going to go in these 2 boxes. You guys remember what those 2 things are? It's this, p squared, and this, negative 24. And now, okay, cool. We didn't really do any thinking there. We only got to fill in 6 more spots, and then we'll have our answer. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, let's write down our A, B, and C. A is the invisible number in front of that p squared, which is 1. B is 5, and C is negative 24. I'm really glad that you kept the negative with it. That's really important. C is negative 24. Remember, when you do A, B, and C, they are numbers only. No variables go in there. All right, let's get that into our X. Do you remember what goes in the top and what goes in the bottom? A times C goes in the top and B goes in the bottom. So I'm going to put A times C. That's 1 times negative 24. And then B goes in the bottom. That's 5. And now I'm looking for 2 numbers that multiply to negative 24, add up to 5. I'm going to do my little trick here. We're going to go 24. It's negative, so I'm looking for things that subtract to equal 5. So 1 and 24, no. 2 and 12, subtract those, we get 10. No, I want 5. 3 and 8, subtract those. Oh, yep, there we go. 3 and 8 should work to get 5. Yay! Okay, 3 and 8. And do we need one of them or both of them to be negative? The 3 needs to be negative. Okay. We got our diamond done. We're almost there. Now the diamond's got to go into the box. And remember, the stuff that comes from here goes in the other 2 spaces, and they get a variable after them. So it's going to be negative 3p and 8p. And then we figure out what goes on the top and the side of the box. That's our answer, and we're done. And the nice thing about every one of these problems, if it's p squared, it's always going to be p and p. P and p. P times something is 8p. I'm thinking 8. And then p times something else is negative 3p. I'm guessing negative 3. And I'll just do a quick last check. Is negative 3 times 8 equal to negative 24? Yes, indeed. So we're good to go. My final factored form is p plus 8 and p minus 3. Did anybody write these factors in the opposite order? Did anybody put their p minus 3 first and their p plus 8 at the end? A couple of you did. Do you think that's just as good as this answer? Absolutely. Yeah, it does not matter what order we put the factors in. All right, now that you've seen it twice, what do you think? Do you think you're going to be able to get pretty quick with this? Let me ask you this. Are any of these steps really, really difficult? There's just a lot of steps, right? So the tricky thing is going to be getting fast at it and making sure you get everything in the right place. So if you would like me to sit down with you and work through another couple, just let me know. But I would love for you guys to finish this front page. And then I'll get you the assignment as soon as you're done.